this week in North Africa. According to the Trump administration, Sudan moves to normalize relations with Israel under U.S. brokered deal. As stated by the specialized air traffic website Flightradar24, a chartered plane left Tel Aviv for Khartoum on the 21st of October. A Sudanese government source declared that a joint American-Israeli delegation visited Khartoum and met with Sovereign Council President General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan to discuss the normalization of ties between Sudan and Israel. According to Al Jazeera, Israeli sources requesting anonymity also confirmed the trip. Israeli Intelligence Minister Eli Cohen claimed in local media that Israel was, quote, very close to normalizing ties with Sudan, unquote. In Sudan, General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, deputy head of the Transitional Military Council, was quoted saying, whether we like it or not, relations with Israel are tied to removing Sudan from the U.S. list of states sponsoring terrorism. Dagalo's comments came a week after Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok's refusal to link the normalization of relations with Israel with Sudan's removal from the U.S. terrorism list. It should be recalled that in 1993, Sudan was designated by the U.S. as a state sponsor of terrorism over allegations that al-Bashir's government was supporting terrorism. This resulted in a severe impending access to loans, foreign investment, and debt relief for the North African country. The Washington Post cited in its October 23rd article that Trump sealed the agreement in the Friday phone call with Netanyahu, Sudanese Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok, and General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the military head of Sudan's transitional government. American-Palestinian legal scholar, human rights attorney, activist, and writer Noura Erakat tweeted the same day. To be clear, Sudan's military is normalizing relations with Israel in spite of opposition of civilian government. In exchange, Sudan will receive funding and be taken off the U.S. list of state sponsors of terror. This is the violence and anti-democratic future promised by the U.S. and Israel. Is this an attempt from President Donald Trump to enhance his administration's efforts in ensuring peace in the MENA region as a way to secure pro-Republican votes in the upcoming U.S. elections? Will the normalization of Sudanese-Israeli relations play in favor of the military rule in Sudan? The This Week in Africa team would love to hear your thoughts on the chat. At last, Libya's major rivals, the Government of National Accord and the Libyan National Army, have agreed to a permanent ceasefire. This is a historic moment for Libyans and for Africans. A 9-year civil war that harmed the populations of Saharan Africa came to an end. This is, of course, thanks to the efforts of regional diplomats who organized Libyan peace talks, such as the case with the Libyan Political Forum that takes place in Tunisia and the Libyan Dialogue held in Morocco. International diplomacy witnessed how the peace talks organized by African diplomats had better consequences than those held in Moscow, Paris, and Berlin.
Next on to the DRC, where the Islamic State has claimed that it was behind the recent massive prison break in which more than 1,300 prisoners were freed from a jail in Beni in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. In its official media statement, the Islamic State directly linked the operation to a recent speech made by its spokesperson Abu Hamza al-Quraishi. The attack began when a suicide bomber detonated a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device at the gates of the prison. A team of jihadists then stormed the facilities, leading to a prolonged siege that lasted approximately 18 to 20 hours. This extremism is only part of the bigger trouble that the Democratic Republic of Congo is currently experiencing. The country's government ought to step in and step up the security in this region, and if that's not possible, then the UN and the AU should do so.
In Guinea, the unprecedented elections happened where Alpha Condé ran for his third mandate. The dreaded wave of violence once again broke on the streets of Conakry. When the first unofficial results were announced, the opposition seemed to be taking the lead. Cellou Dalein Diallo, the runner-up, decided to publicly announce his alleged victory before the Electoral Commission did. That did not sit well with Alpha Condé supporters, and later that night, gunshots forced the police to arrive on site in many cities to ease the tensions. The CEDEAO qualified Diallo's act of deplorable and the RPG of irresponsible and dangerous. However, on the 24th of October, a dramatic turn of events happened when Alpha Condé was proclaimed president for the third time. The Guinean youth believes that the elections were fraudulent and accused their president of stealing the power from his citizens. While the government of Guinea deployed its armed forces to bring peace, the government of Nigeria deployed officers who caused chaos against the youth. On the 20th of October, a shooting was committed. A group of peaceful protesters were out in the streets of Lekki past the curfew imposed by the government. As it has been the case for the past month, they were protesting protesting and showing their support for the End SARS movement. Upon seeing them, a group of soldiers barricaded the surroundings. Cameras were shut and street lamps were off when the armed forces opened fire on the protesters. This revolting event achieved to hurt the giant of Africa. On the media, many reported that the state has failed its citizens. How does a government dare to silence its people who fight against police brutality by sending police officers to shoot them? Muhammadu Buhari, who kept a piercing silence from the beginning of the protest, decided to speak to the nation on the 21st. Surprisingly, he struck the final blow by disregarding the shooting that happened a day ago and appealed to understanding and calm from the nation. This reaction, judged deplorable, was yet not enough to discourage the Nigerian youth, who redoubled their efforts and keep protesting more than ever against a system they disagree with.
In South Africa, the draw for the 2020 Council of Southern African Football Association COSAFA Women's Championship has been set, and the tournament will be underway on the 3rd of November in 2020 in Port Elizabeth, South Africa. It is amazing to see that even in this time of COVID-19, we'll be having an important women's soccer tournament. This tournament represents Pan-Africanism, the unity of sport, and the power of women. Do let us know in the comments who you will be supporting in this tournament. In Zambia, Anglo American is facing a class action lawsuit. The mining company, established in 1917 in Johannesburg, is accused by almost 100,000 people in the Kwambe district of Zambia for contributing to lead poisoning in the area. Anglo American has been present in the country since they were given colonial rights to the mines in 1924, and they operated until 1974 when Kenneth Kaunda, the first Zambian president, decided to nationalize the mines, making Zambia one of the world's first world copper producers. However, the toxic effects of these mines are still felt to this day, as many young children have been diagnosed with lead poisoning, which has resulted in severe physical, psychological, intellectual, and behavioral damage. On the other hand, Anglo American is still the richest mining company in all of Southern Africa, while Zambia's copper has been used to develop industries in the Western world. The people most harshly affected by these mines have never benefited from the riches of their land. This is a story all too common on the African continent. Hopefully, the narrative will change with this class action lawsuit. This Week in Africa is looking for Heroes of the Week. If you have anybody who you think deserves recognition for their actions on the continent, please send their names to This Week in Africa, and we'll try to include them in the coming segments. Thank you.